The screen shimmered with the golden hues of Galactic Broadcast Channel 7, a station infamous for its theatrical coverage of war crimes disguised as justice. In the opening frame, 6 alien anchors lined a curved obsidian table, each one more garishly adorned than the last. The center speaker, a species known as the Mauler, looked like a talking gemstone encased in gelatin, gleaming with smug self-importance. Ladies, lords, and life forms of the consortium, the Mauler chirped in galactic standard, voice syrupy and condescending. Tonight, a celebration of peace and power. We bring you the punishment of an Earth insurgent, captured infiltrating our sacred military data chambers. A child. Can you imagine? Laughter echoed in multiple pitches, a disturbing chorus of overlapping species. Viewers across thousands of systems watched from plush lounges, hive clusters, and feeding pits. The camera panned from the panel to the prisoner, a teenage girl, human, maybe 15, shackled to a plasteel column under floodlights. Her clothes were standard civilian gear, utility pants, weather-worn boots, a jacket that seemed too large for a frame. She did not scream. She did not cry. Her brown eyes studied the crowd behind the cameras with a stillness that unsettled even the most battle-hardened viewers. Somewhere in the middle row, seated with careful posture, a man stirred his tea with deliberate grace. Pale skin, black suit, polite smile. The only human in the room, the Earth diplomat, introduced as Mr. Reese during the initial pleasantries. He had not spoken once. The Mauler continued, relishing the attention. This child spy, named Alira, refused to give us any information, even under telepathic skimming. Which leads us to conclude one thing, dear citizens. She knows nothing. She's a decoy, a taunt. There was a round of chuckles, interrupted only by a wet hacking sound from the Krull ambassador choking on a laughing gland. Reese didn't move. He watched the girl. She hadn't looked at him, not even once. But when the Mauler signaled the execution drone, a 6-limbed, silver spheroid with a plasma rifle, her lips twitched, almost imperceptibly. The drone hovered in front of her. The chamber fell quiet. Every viewer in the galaxy leaned closer to their screens. The girl finally spoke, voice low, clear. He's watching. The drone fired. A clean shot between her eyes. Her head jerked. Blood spattered the floor in a small, neat arc. Her body slumped forward as the cuffs released, and her face hit the ground with a hollow thud. A silence lingered. It stretched longer than most broadcasts allowed, long enough that even the Mauler began to fidget. Mr. Reese set his teacup down on the saucer. He rose without haste, adjusted his cuffs, and offered a shallow bow to the hosts. "Thank you for your hospitality," he said pleasantly, voice crisp with an accent hard to place. Not quite British, not quite colonial mid-Atlantic. "Your demonstration was informative." The Krull coughed again, perhaps trying to find humor in the moment. "You bring spies, we clean them up. It's efficient, no?" Reese nodded, slowly. "Oh, quite. And you've clarified everything I needed to know." The Mauler squinted. "That's it? No outrage? No threats? We were told Earthlings were fiery." "Oh, we are," Reese said, his smile not reaching his eyes. "But it's considered poor form to show teeth before the meal's served." He turned, stepped over the blood trail without a glance, and walked out through the ornate double doors. The silence in the studio held for another few seconds, before the anchors began to awkwardly chuckle again. "See how weak they are," one muttered to another, off mic, but still picked up. "Can't even bark after a bite." A technician monitoring comm frequencies frowned. "Sir, something odd just came through. A transmission on the secure diplomatic line." The Mauler leaned in. "Well, play it." A grainy human voice crackled through the speakers. 3 words, calm and unflinching. Timer started. "Good luck." And then static. Across the broadcast spectrum, feeds blinked, some cut entirely. On Consortium World UX-3, a plasma refinery failed. On Erwin 12, orbital satellites turned inward. In the Imperial capital, holoscreens glitched with a single pulsing word in red Terran font. 7. The studio lights flickered. The Mauler waved a frond. "Technical issues, dear viewers. Happens during solar flares. Nothing to worry Abu. The lights died entirely. A minute later, in the darkness, the Krull ambassador's voice squeaked out. Why do I feel cold? On the diplomatic vessel Gideon's Mercy, Reese removed his coat, folded it neatly, and placed it on the back of his chair. A junior officer approached, sweating. Sir. Confirmed. The girl was Alira Harper. Clearance level 2. Reese nodded once. She volunteered. They shot her live. Billion saw it. Good, he said simply. Let them remember her name before the ash covers their mouths. The officer swallowed. And the strike. Reese tapped a screen embedded in the armrest. Already in progress. Step 4 will complete before minute 7. Sir, that's fast even for us. He gave the officer a thin smile, the kind that curled at one corner and never touched the eyes. We told them for years that humanity was slow to war, but swift in vengeance. They thought it was poetic exaggeration. Should I alert the diplomatic channels? Reese shook his head. No. We don't need statements. The only message they'll receive is silence. In the studio, emergency lights finally flickered on. One of the anchors had fainted. Another was vomiting. The execution drone lay motionless, its casing peeled back as if something had melted through its alloy. A technician screamed from the control room. All feeds are looping. We can't stop it. On every screen across the consortium, Alira's execution played again, and again, and again. But each time, her eyes lingered a little longer on the camera before the shot. As if she knew. As if she waited. The Mauler stood, suddenly pale. Who was she really? The Krull ambassador was trembling. Not just a spy. A symbol, another muttered. No, a shadowy figure near the doorway corrected, voice shaking. She was bait. The Mauler turned sharply. Bait for what? They're a Tier 4 civilization. They can't even terraform properly. That's the thing, said the technician, still locked in his chair. They stopped trying to impress us a century ago. They let us think we were superior. Let us mock them. Lull ourselves. Because they didn't care about our approval. The Mauler waved a trembling limb. Absurd. Another technician whispered, Sir, I think they wanted us to kill her. A long silence fell. Then a ping. A countdown blinked across every screen. 4 minutes and 58 seconds. 4 minutes. The Mauler's voice rose, trembling. 4 minutes until what? On the Gideon's Mercy, Reese stared through the viewport as distant stars began to dim, one by one. He exhaled. His reflection in the glass didn't blink. She was 15, he murmured. Barely out of school. You murdered her to make a point. Another officer entered. Sir, strike squads report 0 resistance. Planetary shields are folding before contact. Expected, Reese said. Collateral damage? Minimal. They built their worlds for comfort, not resilience. They thought war was primitive. The officer hesitated. Did we provoke this on purpose? Reese didn't answer right away. He tapped the screen again. The countdown dropped. 5 minutes and 31 seconds. Humans don't pick fights, he said finally. But we never forget a girl who died with her eyes open. In the remains of the studio, the screens blinked one last time. The feed went black. A beat. Then a single human word scrawled across every interface in bold, white font. Run. And there, without explosions or warning shots, began the quietest, fastest extinction the galaxy had ever witnessed. Not with a scream, but with a timer. Aboard the Gideon's Mercy, a human vessel cloaked in the gravity shadows of consortium space, silence reigned. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of calculation. Every monitor, every scanner, every eye aboard watched as the second hand on the analog chronometer clicked toward 3 minutes. Reese stood in the command chamber, hands clasped behind his back, eyes locked on the display of the galactic quadrant before him. Dozens of star systems shimmered with color-coded insignias, green for neutral, blue for allied, red for consortium-controlled. Slowly, methodically, the red began to flicker. Report, Reese said without turning. A young technician near the fore adjusted her earpiece. 36 outposts down. Power loss. AI paralysis. Civilian cities blinking off. No outgoing messages from their side. They're scrambling, but no protocols are triggering. Sir, it's like they've never seen war. They haven't, Reese replied. The young officer frowned. But their military database is decorative. They prepare for rebellion, not extermination. They've never needed to earn peace. Reese exhaled and stepped closer to the display. They only ever expected others to fear them. The ship's intercom clicked. A voice, gravelly, grinning, broke through the chamber. Captain Locke on deck 2. Minute 3, gents. All units in the black. Operation Swansong is executing clean. Want us to turn the lights off on Erwin now? Reese glanced toward the comm panel and gave a slight nod. Proceed. Roger that. Humanity says hello. The channel clicked off. At that exact second, Erwin 12, a critical consortium colony planet known for its sprawling agriculture fields and merchant AI hubs, vanished from all consortium logs. Not destroyed. Not attacked. Just gone. Blotted out like spilled ink wiped clean. In the consortium capital, thousands of light years away, the council scrambled. Panic bloomed, silent and venomous, in high towers and low bunkers alike. Systems were failing without cause. Infrastructure collapsed inwards. Even internal communications flickered with static. Human code interlaced through alien encryption, like ivy strangling ancient brick. In a marble-walled chamber atop the Capitol Tower, High Executor Gore Vassa paced in a circle, his forelegs clacking against crystal tiles. His skin, usually a muted gold, now flushed sickly green. An aide approached, his translator badge flickering from the overload. Executor, the aide said, sweating through his fronds. Another world just went dark. Yulin V, the naval foundry. Dark how? Gore snapped. No explosions. No debris. Just silence. That's impossible. They have 4 orbital rings, 3 command AIs, and 17 interceptor fleets. They didn't even deploy, the aide whispered. It's like something reached inside the machine and he stopped, unable to finish. Hackers. Gore demanded. Sabotage. Sir, their neural cores aren't just shut down. They're absent. Not corrupted. Not rebooted. Gone. Gore hissed. He looked to the diplomatic stream, still open with a direct feed to the human ship. The transmission was inactive, a quiet gray screen. But the message remained at the bottom, steady and calm. Timer started. Good luck. He snarled and turned to his generals. This is retaliation. We need to issue a message. Offer compensation. A formal apology. Something. They're not responding to diplomacy, one of the generals muttered. They're not even asking for demands. A junior communications officer interrupted, panicked. Sir, we have a new signal. One of the humans is transmitting from inside consortium airspace. Gore's head whipped around. From where? Inside the UX-3 command shipyard. Appeared 3 minutes ago. No signs of entry. No alarms triggered. Patch it through, Gore barked. A hollow feed cracked to life. A single figure sat at a command console aboard the UX-3 yard, cross-legged on the floor. Human. Female. Young. Eating a sandwich. She looked up as if surprised to see them. Oh hey, she said brightly. Didn't expect company. Gore stepped forward. Identify yourself. She took another bite. Lieutenant First Class Danny Moore. Earth Strategic Observation and Psychological Response Unit. Yes, BRU. That's pronounced Esper, like the mine thing. Fun, right? You've infiltrated a secure. Don't bother, she said, waving a hand. Your systems aren't listening to you anymore. This place belongs to us now. Think of it as a sublet. Gore's mandibles twitched. What are your demands? She paused, genuinely confused. Demands? Oh no. I'm not here to negotiate. Then why are you there? He growled. She smiled, and that smile, small, casual, too familiar, was the first sign that things were far worse than they imagined. To witness the turn. The turn. Danny stood, brushing crumbs from her pants. We told you not to touch our young. We didn't say it like a threat. We said it like a rule. But you took a child, executed her for sport, and made jokes about it on live broadcast. That wasn't just cruel. It was stupid. You murdered diplomats for trespassing. She was a scout, you idiot, Danny said. A kid learning how long it takes you to pull a trigger. And you taught us. That data was her whole mission. Data. Gore repeated, voice cracking. The moment her heart stopped, everything went live. Her neural node was quantum synced to every ops channel we had. Your kill was the start flag. Gore recoiled. You let us kill her. She volunteered. The screen cut to black. Back aboard the Gideon's Mercy, Reese watched the data pour in. More planets falling. Not one bomb dropped. Not one soldier deployed. Just void. Artificial silence. A surgical extinction. How many worlds now, he asked. 59 confirmed down, the officer replied. 10 more blinking. Civilian casualties minimal. Infrastructures just folding. We locked their defense AIs out 3 decades ago. Left sleeper code under their firmware. They never looked. Reese nodded, satisfied. Don't let them feel fire. Let them feel confusion. The screen lit again as Admiral Juno Ferris patched in. Her face, hardened by 40 years in black operations, filled the frame. Still standing, Reese? She asked, dry as sun-scorched sand. Wouldn't miss this for the universe. You were right, she said. They never saw it coming. Thought we were all softness and jazz music. He chuckled. Soft jazz. Our greatest weapon. Consortium trying to scramble a fleet. No command cohesion. We shredded their timing. Gonna get messy. Don't let them get far enough to bleed. Juno nodded. Orders. Maintain the minute schedule. I want all 112 marked worlds neutralized by minute 7. No variants. No glory shots. No messages. No survivors. Reese paused. 10%. Just enough to talk. The screen winked off. At Consortium Fleet Command, Admiral Yex Verne watched helplessly as ships drifted from formation. Engines cut mid-burn. Communications fell into loops of binary. A fleet meant to conquer was now a fleet of debris waiting to happen. Why are they doing this? Yex whispered. Why not demand surrender? No one answered. The holofeed sparked again. This time it was Reese. He appeared mid-conversation, as if he had been speaking for hours and they were merely tuning in. So you see, we never cared about your territory. Never wanted your culture or your tech or your alliances. All we ever wanted was to be left alone. He sipped a drink from an old ceramic cup, the kind you find in diners on lonely highways. But you couldn't resist. You needed to prove your superiority, even if it meant executing a kid. You didn't just invade. You insulted. You taught us how you see us. He smiled. Now we're teaching you how we see justice. A nearby commander screamed, You're mad. Reese tilted his head. You mistake clarity for madness. That's common in declining empires. We'll retaliate, someone else shouted. From where? He asked simply. The screen pulsed red. 5 minutes and 59 seconds. Gore Vasa stood alone now in his chamber, the others having fled or fainted or worse. He staggered toward the console, pressing buttons with frantic speed. No systems responded. Only the girl's face, Elira's, stared back from every screen. Frozen. Eyes open. She wasn't crying. She wasn't afraid. She had simply known. In the vastness of Consortium space, whispers began to form, carried through pirate channels, smuggler tales, and half-dead planetary relays. The humans had turned. They had smiled while watching, and now the smile was gone. Only teeth remained. The stars above Garuin's twin moons turned red. It wasn't a metaphor. A dozen orbital satellites reflected the glow of burning debris, Consortium ships folding into themselves as command AIs winked out, their fail-safes never designed to account for psychological warfare written in Terran code. Above the Capitol dome, sirens wailed in a desperate chorus, too late, too mechanical, too old. High Executor Gore Vasa stood motionless before the observation deck, for digits trembling around a glass of imported melt wine that had not touched his mandibles in minutes. Behind him, 3 security aides argued in rising panic, their voices clawing over one another in confusion. Reports flashed across the room in conflicting bursts: system collapses, rogue code, weapon silences. None of it made sense. None of it matched any military model they had studied. They had prepared for war. What they received was something else. "Where are the humans launching from?" he barked suddenly. Silence fell, awkward and jagged. One aide finally stepped forward. "They're not launching, sir. Nothing is incoming. There are no troop movements. No ships breaching entry lanes. All our planetary scans show 0 hostiles." "That's not possible," Gore snapped. "Respectfully," the aide said, sweating through his carapace, "it's not just possible, it's real. They're not invading. They're erasing." The word made the room colder. A secondary screen flickered. Danny Moore's face appeared again, casual as ever, a grease stain on her cheek and a lollipop now replacing her sandwich. She sat cross-legged atop a data terminal inside the now human-occupied shipyard at UX-3, humming something distinctly old Earth, a jazz melody no alien algorithm could quite categorize. "You're still alive," she said, feigning surprise as the connection opened. "Points for endurance. Bet your analysts are working overtime trying to figure out why we're not coming for your throne yet." Gore gritted his teeth. "What is this? Some slow-play torture? We're ready to negotiate." Danny's smile didn't falter. "Oh no, no, no. You don't get to frame it like that. You executed a child and aired it like sports coverage. There's no negotiation after that. Just clarity. You planted her. She volunteered." The connection fuzzed. In the static, the music rose, soft horns, gentle percussion, warm and utterly terrifying. It played not as a soundtrack to a conquest, but to a funeral procession, subtle and certain. Reese watched the broadcast from the Gideon's Mercy, arms folded, expression unreadable. Minute 5, a technician called. Full lockout confirmed in quadrants Delta and Theta. Weapons caches destroyed without ignition. Civilian comms silenced. Casualties: less than 400 total. Mostly from panic. Humans on site are pulling non-combatants out before system collapse, per protocol. Reese nodded. "Good. The message is fear, not genocide." Juno Ferris patched in again, her voice sharp, focused. "Sector 9 just folded. They're not even trying to resist anymore. They've never had to survive without a structure built to serve them," Reese said. "Pull the rug out and the Emperor becomes a child in a flood." She didn't argue. Instead, she added, "You were right. They underestimated us, so hard it looped back around to being useful." Reese gave a tired grin. "It always does." Back in the Consortium Command Center, Gore Vasa paced a widening circle. Manic energy replacing composure. Find a back channel. A human council. A general. Anyone who can be reasoned with. The aide hesitated. "There is one other feed. A private line. It's from Earth." Gore whirled. "Patch it in." The screen brightened. The human who appeared was unlike the ones they'd seen before. Older, leaner, dressed in a threadbare sweater and worn jeans. He sat in what looked like a quiet Earth home, wood-paneled walls, bookshelf behind him, a steaming mug of something beside him. The name on the feed identified him as Dr. Elliot Sharp, historian. Gore frowned. "A historian? We're at war, and they send us a librarian." Sharp leaned forward, hands folded. "Not war. Instruction. Instruction." Sharp smiled faintly. "You're being taught a lesson, Executor. One written in silence, carried on whispers, and executed by people you assumed were too polite to survive. We demand this ends now." Sharp lifted the mug. "You demand." Gore hesitated. The word didn't feel like it used to. "Tell me," Sharp said calmly, "when your fleets wiped out the Marin colony 3 years ago, how many of your analysts predicted Earth's long-term retaliation?" 0, Gore said. "Exactly. Because they thought humanity was an adaptive species, not a retaliatory one. They thought we moved on instead of doubling down. But we're not like you." "Then what are you?" Gore hissed. Sharp's smile finally dropped. "We are a species that learned peace by counting the dead. We are built from grief and made functional by revenge. We spent centuries inventing law so we wouldn't burn everything. But if you take the law from us, if you break the only line that kept us civil, then we don't come with fire. We come with memory. We remember everything. Gore said nothing. Sharp leaned back. Minute 6 starts in 30 seconds. I suggest you sit. Standing won't help. The screen cut. Gore Vasa slumped to his chair, limbs folding inwards like a creature seeking a shell. Around him, the room dimmed. Outside, a dozen ships drifted in the sky, consortium vessels stripped of their own code, now simply ornaments. In orbit, the Gideon's Mercy pivoted. Execute Smile Directive, Reese ordered. A series of quiet confirmations echoed through the chamber. Across hundreds of alien systems, screens lit up not with missiles or warnings, but with faces, human faces. Each one smiling. Not cruel, not triumphant, just still. Each image accompanied by a timestamp and a planetary name. Each smile different. Each the face of someone the consortium had harmed over the past century. Each a reminder. The alien population didn't scream. Screaming belongs to chaos. This was deeper. This was dread. In the broadcast center on Sierra 9, a technician fell to his knees. They recorded us. Every death. Every child. Every raid. In a mining colony on Tor VA, a grizzled foreman shut down his drill and whispered to no one, "They've been watching for decades," pretending to be slow. And in the great council hall on the Capital World, every representative now sat in silence as their systems failed, one by one, their pride disassembled by ghosts who had never raised a weapon until it was too late. Above them all, the countdown continued. 5 minutes and 59 seconds. Danny Moore, still chewing on her lollipop, called into Reese. "You know," she said, "I used to wonder why we weren't more aggressive. We had the weapons, the fleets, the intelligence, but we always just let them laugh." Reese looked up. "Because we needed them to believe the joke was real." Danny grinned. "And now," he returned the smile, "now they're the punchline." The transmission ended, and the 6th minute began with a silence louder than any war drum. The 7th minute began like the moment between lightning and thunder, frozen in anticipation, vibrating with unshed violence. In that suspended breath between histories, the galaxy waited. The screen in Reese's chamber displayed a map of known consortium space. What was once a vibrant cartographic tangle of trade lanes, patrol routes, and population centers now glowed with dimmed clusters, grayed-out territories, and blinking nodes indicating systemic death. Red had vanished. There were no enemies left, just the ghosts of arrogance flickering across lifeless skies. "Status," Reese murmured. A quiet voice answered behind him. Lieutenant Maya Croft, her face pale, her voice steady. 112 planetary systems down. No retaliatory strike. Civilian pullouts reached target threshold. No human casualties. He nodded, but there was no joy in it. Only gravity. The chamber dimmed as the sun of Sector 9 folded under its own silence. It didn't explode. It simply stopped being relevant. Juno Ferris's face appeared again in his comm feed, backlit by the blue pulse of tactical screens. Final fleet movement confirmed. Black Ice Unit has begun Phase Omega on the Capitol Dome. Fallout. Contained. Memory code deployed. Non-lethal. Local culture will survive, just with a very different bedtime story. Reese allowed himself a slow breath. The kind where humans are monsters under the stars. Juno grinned. "We earned the reputation." Reese didn't disagree. He stood slowly, joints tight from hours of stillness. His reflection in the console shimmered back, composed, cold, surgically controlled. This was the face he had trained to wear, not the one he was born with. That one had belonged to a man with hope, a man who believed treaties mattered. He had buried that version of himself 7 years ago, the day Alira volunteered. The memory struck with surgical clarity, her knocking on his office door, boots too big, oversized coat drowning her frame. She had asked what her death would buy. He had answered, clarity. She had smiled and said that was enough. Now her name was a doctrine. Across the galaxy, they were still trying to understand it all, trying to parse human restraint as slowness, their silence as passivity, trying to calculate how a people obsessed with music and warmth and jokes could become something so ruthless. But there was nothing to calculate anymore, just the aftermath and the judgment. At the heart of the consortium's capital world, in the still shimmering ruins of the central broadcast tower, Gor Vassa sat on a half-burnt bench, helmet discarded, robes tattered, staring at the looped recording playing across every screen that still functioned. Elira's face. But it wasn't the moment of her execution this time. It was a different clip, one no one had seen before. She sat in a small, white room, legs crossed beneath her. Her voice was quiet, but the clarity of her words sliced like broken glass. "They're going to kill me. That's part of the plan. I asked to go. I want them to look into my eyes and think they've won. I want that to be their last moment of certainty." A pause. Then she smiled. "And when the 7th minute comes, I want them to remember me, not because I died, but because I chose to." The screen looped. Gor didn't blink. His aides were gone. His council abandoned. His fleet vaporized without fire. A new signal chimed. He didn't flinch. The display lit with Rhys's face. No backdrop. Just darkness behind him. No flare. No final speech. "Executor," Rhys said evenly. "It's over." "You didn't give us a chance," Gor rasped. His voice was cracked stone. You never gave us a chance to surrender." "You gave that child less," Rhys replied. "She wasn't armed. She wasn't hostile. She was your opportunity to show mercy. You used her to entertain your viewers." Gor's voice rose, shaky but desperate. "We were arrogant, not evil. You could have warned us." "We did. For decades." Rhys tilted his head. "You just thought we were bluffing." A long silence followed. Then a whisper barely audible. "What are you?" Rhys's expression didn't change, but his voice lowered, became something almost intimate, like a confession. "We are the consequence you laughed at, the kindness you mistook for weakness, the storm you trained by slapping the wind." Gor leaned forward, defeated. "What do you want now?" Rhys didn't hesitate. "Nothing. That's what makes this worse, doesn't it?" The screen cut. In the corner of the command deck aboard Gideon's Mercy, Maya spoke again, this time more quietly. "You're sure we don't take the capital?" Rhys shook his head. "We've already taken it. They just haven't processed it yet." "But what if they rebuild?" He turned. "Then they'll remember who taught them how to fall." She looked down. "And us. We'll remember who taught us to become this." At that moment, something shifted in the far edge of consortium space. A few remaining species, ones that had watched the execution but refused to cheer, transmitted white flag beacons. They didn't ask for mercy. They asked for terms, for understanding, for survival. One of them, a small aquatic race from a drifting coral moon, simply sent a wordless stream of music. Human blues, interlaced with alien strings. It played on loop. Back in orbit, Rhys walked to a small compartment near the edge of the command deck. He opened it to reveal a simple wooden box. Inside, an old photo. Him, younger. Elira, laughing beside him, grinning through a broken front tooth. A note on the back read, "She never blinked." He closed the box. "We done." Juno's voice came through. Rhys didn't look up. "Yeah. Pull the fleet. Begin the fade. And if they ever retaliate..." He hesitated, then replied, "Then we remind them what minute 7 feels like." Outside, the stars didn't blink. They simply watched, as they always had, in silence, in judgment, and now in fear.